Today we're going to be talking about ethical hacking, also known as penetration testing, and we'll be doing so as part of the CompTIA Security Plus section 1.4, covering the different kinds of penetration testing. Hi everybody, welcome to StudioSec. Thank you for watching. Like this video if it's giving you any kind of value. Comment down below about your Security Plus studying journey and subscribe for more content. I'm building a Security Plus playlist. Also, follow me on Twitter and Reddit. I would love to be able to get to know more about you, and I'd love to be able to create more content that is helpful to you. Let's get into it. So of course we have multiple different kinds of ways that you can perform a penetration test, and basically some of these won't necessarily include actually penetrating a network or a system. Some of them will include reconnaissance. We'll talk about active and passive reconnaissance. We'll talk about different things you might do in a penetration test, like pivoting, maintaining persistence, escalating privilege. But if you're not familiar with what a penetration test is or what ethical hacking is, basically this is whenever an organization, a company, or an individual pays you money. They agree for you to perform hacking tools, techniques, and procedures on their device or on their network. And what that does is that allows them to know how you gain access. And then whenever you're done, of course, you're going to write a super detailed write-up about how you did it and what they can do to improve their security. Now, obviously, you'll be performing this within a certain scope, meaning that you only be allowed to perform these actions on a certain set of machines that is agreed upon. And whenever you're done, you're going to relinquish access. You're basically going to tell them, hey, here's how you improve your security. Here's what I did. And then you're gone, right? You're gone until the next agreement. Now let's actually get into the concepts for section 1.4, explaining different concepts in penetration testing. Of course, we have active and passive reconnaissance. Now there's a very crucial difference here. Active reconnaissance is whenever you're performing reconnaissance on your target and you're actually sending packets to the target. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But passive reconnaissance is whenever you're not sending packets to your target, and we'll talk about that as well. But whenever you're sending packets to your target, that really is kind of like whenever you're running the ping command, which it lets you know if the system is up and if it's responsive. If you're running the nmap command, if you're using nmap to gain information about your target or a network, right? That is going to let you know all kinds of information, specifically if it's responding, what kind of programs it's running. Nmap's a great tool for people that are running reconnaissance. But it is something that will come up in a firewall potentially, that your target might be notified, hey, you know, this person or this machine is running nmap. They're trying to collect all kinds of intelligence on our network. Maybe we should block that IP, right? So while active reconnaissance will yield you a lot of good information, it's also very risky because it might get you caught. So perform at your own risk. Of course, passive reconnaissance is whenever you are not making contact with the target network. So maybe you're looking for open source information, like you're using Google, you're using social media, you're trying to get information about what the target does. So if you're trying to do a penetration test on a company, maybe you'll try to get information on social media about who works for that company and if you can socially engineer an employee. There are all kinds of different things that you can do, all kinds of angles that you can perform, and reconnaissance is really that first step whenever you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to try to get into this organization? Next, we're going to talk about pivoting, initial exploitation, persistence, and escalation of privilege. Now, these are all concepts kind of in the middle of the penetration test. So pivot is whenever you are in a system, let's say you've gained initial access, you own a box, and you want to pivot to another machine. So you will, that's basically what that is. You've maintained a foothold. Now you're going to find another target within that network. You are pivoting further into that network from the first machine that you exploited. Initial exploitation is that first time that you've exploited into the network. You have, gained some kind of access to the target machine. Now you're trying to either escalate privilege, you're trying to maintain persistence, and then you're looking for other places to bounce or to pivot onto that target network. Persistence, of course, is whenever you're wanting to stay on that network. Of course, they're going to be trying to kick you off if they know that you're there, obviously. But maybe they'll just be performing basic maintenance, and that might disrupt your presence on that machine. So you're going to want to try to create multiple different ways that you are maintaining access to the system, exploit multiple programs on the same device that give you that level of persistence. So say you exploit a vulnerable program and then you're able to exploit, some protocol. Well, if that program gets restarted, and you lose access through that program, you still have access through the protocol. Escalation of privilege, basically that's whenever you have your initial exploitation, you have your foothold, but you're not necessarily an admin user. You're not going to be able to run root commands. And what that means is there are certain commands that you're not allowed to run unless you have full authority in that machine. So escalating privilege is whenever you're trying to basically game the system, run different programs on the target machine that will basically allow you to have full control, allow you to run all the different commands you need to run on the box. And that is going to really make it easier for you to maintain persistence, for you to pivot, for you to exfiltrate whatever kind of information you're after. You need to be able to exploit, you need to be able to elevate privileges if you want to fully succeed in your penetration test. Next, we got black box and white box hacking. Now, these are different kinds of penetration tests. Black box hack is whenever whenever you, the attacker, you, the penetration tester, you, the ethical hacker, do not really know anything about your target. That's whenever the company just says, hey, here's the IP, or maybe they don't even tell you the IP. They just say, hey, we want you to attack our network. We're gonna, here's your scope, and that's it. And so you're gonna have to do all the target enumeration. You're gonna have to figure out all the information about the targets, and it's on you. I mean, they're not gonna give you any information. White box testing is whenever they give you all the information about the box. They'll tell you the IPs, they'll tell you the operating systems, they'll give you the information you need to be able to get into the box. They'll give you the information you need to be able to get into the box, and that's going to allow the penetration test to roll a little bit faster. A gray box is a mix between the two. So they'll give you certain information about the target, but not all. And so it's kind of like just dropping hints. Now, next is another very important thing to learn, and that's penetration testing versus vulnerability scanning. Now, believe it or not, these are not the same things. And this is a spot that a lot of people can get confused. In a penetration test, you are actually trying to exploit vulnerabilities to gain access to a target machine, trying to maintain persistence, pivot, escalate privileges, etc. But with vulnerability scanning, you are simply scanning a target to check and see if there are any vulnerabilities present. You're not actually trying to exploit those vulnerabilities. You are just checking, hey, is this vulnerability in existence here? So those are the main concepts in penetration testing that you need to know. These are all, of course, in the CompTIA Security Plus. This is section 1.4, and you're gonna need to know these for the Security Plus. As you probably know, penetration testing is a very, very popular career path within cybersecurity. There's a lot of people that do it, and I'm sure if you want to get into it, you could have a great career in penetration testing. But these are the concepts that you want to be able to know, off the top of your head, to be able to get started. Now remember that the number one thing in penetration testing that you need to be aware of is scope. Do not go outside of scope. If you are going outside of scope, you're not only breaking an agreement, that could get you into a lot of trouble. So make sure that you are being completely sure of the scope whenever you're in an engagement, whenever you're doing any kind of test, so that way you are not exceeding that scope. Don't do it. Thanks, everybody.